poets in the house. ENC 3210 in the house. My teachers, my colleagues. This room's full of a lot of my favorite people. Yeah, thanks for coming. I'm going to read like 4,300 poems. I'm gonna read a couple poems from my first book, a couple from my second, and then about a half a dozen new pieces. The bookstore dropped the ball in bringing my books to sell to you, so I'm gonna read fewer poems from the books. It feels like a tease because you can't get them. But anywho. All right. I'm a compulsive editor. I like to edit everything. I like to edit my life. This poem's kind of about that. It's called A Happy Hour. After a day or a few hours of good work done, upon the completion of a difficult effort that felt rewarding in the doing, when it might serve one better to celebrate and forget, and then retire to a bed to rest for the next day's good works. Instead, some of us look back too soon over what it is that we've done. Just a peek, I tell myself. A peek, at least. But this progresses from a peek into a glimpse and onward to a glance until I lose myself in a stare of unlimited scrutiny, which, of course, enhances the cracks and spaces and imperfections in things, and eventually expresses how a work of once epic seeming proportions, like the building of a spacious, sturdy house, for example, could in fact be very small. The building of a small wall, and not even a whole wall, even just a half a wall, not even a sturdy one, which, if I hadn't looked, might have remained a spacious, finished house to me and helped me find shelter and sleep better. Incidentally, I always wonder about the appropriate response at a poetry reading after you hear a poem. You know, the golf clap or the beatnik snap, or I have to say that I think it's perfectly appropriate. The sound of meditation is a perfectly appropriate sound, or a syllable, like perfectly appropriate response. Here's a relationship poem. I wrote this many years ago and had someone come up to me after reading and say, you've been through a divorce, and I hadn't. But then about 6 years later, after I had been through a divorce, I was reaffirmed again the prophetic nature of poetry, telling the future. This is called The House in Order. You wanted to build a house. I wanted to build a house. We should not have built a house. We built a house. We should not have gone into the house. If you went inside, you left. If I went inside, I left. This was our arrangement. You put dreams inside the house. There was you in golden clothes and rosy colors in the dreams, also in the house. You put changes also in the house after I left. You left. I put changes and ways to look at changes in the house. We lived on different pages in the changes, also in the house. We passed each other going to and coming from the house. We drew a line with two sides to it. If we touched hands, it was too much. We touched hands, it was not enough. We should not have found ourselves inside a house. We lost ourselves. We found a house. We found a house. We lost a house. Or the full-on clap.
Oh yeah. I'll put it on YouTube.
So this, every poem I've ever published is a prose poem. I'm just doing visual, because I have a lot of students, and they have to write response papers. So, it's the pedagogical moment. Looks like prose on the page, uses elements of story, but behaves like a poem. This piece I'm going to read is a villanelle. It is a strict villanelle, poetic form involving repetitive lines and rhymes, but it is in prose and behaves like a story with paragraphs and whatnot. One of my favorite places to work when I have a little space. This is called, can you all hear me, by the way? I don't want to talk into this because, well, it's okay. I can make it closer to mine. But then when I go, it sounds like. Okay,
Don't sing any keys.
Can you all? Yeah, I'm gonna leave. This is gonna be an Olipo poem. I'm gonna leave all the P's out of it. Refining villanelle. When you converse with cultured repose, the impulse arises to babble or drone, but you settle on speaking appropriate prose. Rough mouths and jaded edges persist in some facts of society's form, where people converse with cultured repose. Under spiffy syntax and unwrinkled closure, there's impressive tension, seething danger, as though a bomb. Yet we settle on speaking appropriate prose. A full sentence shuffles along and shows the trained pace of the pedestrian. When I converse with cultured repose, I can't cry out my vows and woes and work through words toward passionless om. I settle. In appropriate prose, who sings oneself, or even unfamiliar tones, chatting simple sense and what's outwardly known? When people converse with cultured repose, they've settled on speaking appropriate prose. So I got one of these Jerome Rothenberg's anthologies about Native American poetry 20 years ago. I think the book that I have is called Shaking the Pumpkin. And in Shaking the Pumpkin, he talks about a tribe of Native Americans who had a particular naming ritual where the members of the individual's tribe would name them based on their negative character traits. So if we were hunting and I fell on my face during the hunting trip, I might earn the name Falls on Face While Hunting type of thing. And I thought this was extraordinary and set out to try to delineate negative aspects of my own character, which of course was very, very difficult for me to do. But I came up with 26 of them. And this is called 26 Native American naming events, always odd, always on the bad side. That was the name that Jerome Rothenberg gave this poem, by the way. Always odd, always on the bad side. Forgets the keys, too set in old ways, can't learn compassion, walks around naked with the blinds half open, talks big, ogles possessions, often unhappy for no reason, sleeps excessively, racked by insecurities, always thinks money, gesticulates wildly, listens with presumption, hasn't settled, can't commit, stupid blurter, doesn't wear a seatbelt, won't apologize, unwise, trapped in bad habits, never wants help, tells jokes at everyone else's expense, wanton antagonist, cursed and might be blessed, shortcut taker, plagiarist, too hard on myself. All right, new pieces. So this is from my dissertation manuscript, which is on its 5th title, which none of us likes.
Sorry.
I'm outsourcing, but I've also noticed that poets often we say things that, and we don't hear ourselves say them. If any of you has heard me say my title, I want you to come and tell me later. Any ideas? Okay. This, so I got half a dozen poems from the new manuscript. This is, so I think a lot about our interconnectedness, our interrelatedness. I like to pay attention to synergy, and noticing synergy, often I find myself prophetically on the preemptive. For example, and I know it's not going to happen, but I might be here in Tallahassee in the warehouse reading to you on a Tuesday night and mention a train horn. Figured I'd give it a try. And a train horn would sound. But that notwithstanding, my Phil's spell that I tried to cast. This poem's kind of about that. This is called Synergistic Lifeism. A car alarm sirens at dusk. The mockingbirds will sing in car alarm tonight. Upstairs a baby cries, a soul cries out. Even the silence seems aggressively suggestive. Is it just me? I'm learning to speak universe. My accent must be terrible. I say, if you cook in the nude, there isn't enough between you and your Alfredo. But I'm trying to say, forgive me. I write a love poem, but all my poems come out fear poems. At the top of my voice, I say, a television is just an antisocial person. But I'm trying to talk over the loud, insistent television. It doesn't speak universe, does it? I am coming to terms with pain, is what I'm trying to say. I am coming to terms with the fact that I seem to be happiest when I'm in some pain. My terms are these. If my life seems calm and my joints don't creak, and my heart is unwounded and head doesn't ache, then I think I can't feel and I'm stricken with dread. It seems I get the pain or the dread. Is that what you're trying to tell me, universe? I suffer headaches and write fear poems because somewhere a child is dying of thirst while another gallon of water catches my wastefulness and I flush. Let's get heavier. Poem for breakfast. Everything is food, which is depressing. This morning, for breakfast, I half enjoyed a murdered orange. Last night, the remains of a veal. Back on the first line, I first typed, everything is good, which is patently untrue. Food is also called fodder. It's like a misspelling where they let it keep the same meaning. That's one way to lessen violence. I am envious of trees, who merely breathe air, drink water, and turn the sunlight into beautiful shapes before we cut them into rocking horses, rolling pins, and violins. I have my opinions, which I'm telling you. I'm not really here, but you hear me, as if we'd met up in this poem. Everything is good is fodder for argument and for editing. Everything is food for thought. I just typed food for thought, which isn't a thing, and then I typed good for thought, which sounds like a print ad for medicine for thoughts that get stuck in our throats. But that's stupid. Except that nothing is stupid because everything deserves consideration, although eating and considering are two kinds of consumption. It's not that helpful to be able to make sense of anything. Making sense doesn't lessen the violence of anything. I used to write out my poems, longhand, in pen. I liked it better that way, but now I'm lazy. These days, I have others do my killing for me, and I type poorly, and I eat.